4 boys were out looking for trouble, or at least for something to do. It was April 1943. Britain was deep in the war. The boys, Bob Hart, Tom Willits, Bob Farmer, and Fred Payne, were in Hagley Wood, part of the Hagley Hall estate in Worcestershire. They were poaching, looking for birds' nests. It was a forbidden adventure. They spotted a big tree, a wych elm. It was old and gnarled, the kind of tree that looks like it has stories. Bob Farmer, being the most daring, decided to climb it. He thought it might be a good place to find a nest. As he climbed, he looked down into the tree's hollow trunk. He saw something white. He thought it was an animal skull. A badger, maybe. He reached in and pulled it out. It was not an animal skull. It had human hair stuck to it. It had human teeth. One of the front teeth was crooked. The boys stared at it, the thrill of their adventure gone. They were scared. They put the skull back in the tree and made a pact. They wouldn't tell anyone. They were trespassing. They would be in trouble. But the secret was too heavy. The youngest of the boys, Tom Willits, couldn't keep it in. He told his parents. His father called the police. And so began one of Britain's most enduring mysteries. The police went to the wood. They found the wych elm. Inside its dark, cramped hollow, they found the rest of a human skeleton. It was a woman. She was almost complete, except for one hand. The bones of that hand were found scattered on the ground near the tree. The scene was strange. The space inside the tree was tight. Whoever put her there must have forced her in. A piece of light-colored taffeta was found stuffed deep in the skull's mouth. Her clothes were rotted away, but fragments of a shoe and some cheap crepe clothing remained. A cheap gold-plated wedding ring was also found. The investigation began. The police brought in Professor James Webster, a Home Office pathologist. He was one of the best. He examined the remains and built a picture of the dead woman. She was about 35 years old. She stood around 5 feet tall. She had mousy brown hair. She had given birth at least once, and her teeth were irregular, particularly the upper front ones. Webster figured out she had been dead for about 18 months. That put her death somewhere around October 1941. The cause of death was asphyxiation. The taffeta in her mouth wasn't put there after she died. It was likely the thing that killed her. Someone had stuffed it in her mouth to stop her from screaming, and she choked. But the most disturbing detail was how she got into the tree. Professor Webster concluded that she couldn't have been dead for long when she was hidden. Rigor mortis would have made it impossible to fit her body into the tight space. She must have been put in the elm while she was still warm, before her body stiffened. It was a chilling thought. A killer, in the dark woods, forcing a freshly dead body into a tree. The police had a body. They had a cause of death, but they had no name. They checked missing persons reports from all over the country. Thousands of them. Nobody fit the description. Dental records were checked against every dentist in the area and beyond. No matches. The war made things difficult. People moved around. Records were lost. Lives were chaotic. A person could disappear and no one would notice for a while. The clothes were no help. They were cheap, mass-produced items. The wedding ring was also common. It could have been bought anywhere. The investigation stalled. The body in the wych elm became another unsolved case, a local piece of grim folklore. The war raged on, and people had more immediate things to worry about. The woman in the tree remained nameless. Then, just before Christmas of that year, something changed. A message appeared, scrawled in chalk on a wall in nearby Old Hill. It read, "Who put Lubella down the wych elm?" The police were intrigued. The spelling was odd, but the intent was clear. Someone else knew about the body. Someone was taunting them, or perhaps trying to share a secret. The graffiti kept appearing. On walls, on monuments, the spelling changed slightly. Soon, it became the version that would stick, the question that would echo for decades. Who put Bella in the wych elm? The name Bella gave the victim an identity, even if it was just a nickname. It made her real. The graffiti artist was never found, but their messages kept the case alive in the public imagination. It wasn't just an unidentified skeleton anymore, it was Bella, and someone out there knew what happened to her. The years passed, the war ended, life returned to a kind of normal, but the mystery of Bella never quite went away. Every so often, the graffiti would reappear. It became a local legend, and with legends come theories. The first theory was rooted in the occult. The area around Hagley Wood had long been associated with strange folklore. Some people whispered about witchcraft. The idea gained a bit of traction when an anthropologist named Margaret Murray took an interest. She suggested Bella was the victim of a black magic ritual. The evidence for this was thin but spooky. The severed hand found near the tree was significant to this theory. In some occult practices, a severed hand, particularly from a hanged man, could be used to create a magical artifact called a Hand of Glory. It was believed to have dark powers. Maybe Bella wasn't just murdered, maybe she was sacrificed. The wych elm itself was significant in some pagan beliefs. It was a dark, twisted theory, something out of a horror story. but it was wartime. People were on edge. Strange things were happening all over the world. Why not in a quiet English wood? Most investigators, however, dismissed the witchcraft angle. There was no real evidence. The hand wasn't necessarily severed intentionally. Animals could have dragged it from the tree. It was a sensational idea, but it didn't feel like a real solution. It felt like something people made up to explain something they couldn't understand. A more down-to-earth theory emerged in the 1950s. It came from a woman named Una Mossop. She contacted the police with a story about her ex-husband, Jack Mossop. She said Jack had confessed to her. According to Una, Jack used to drink with a man named Van Raalte. Van Raalte was a Dutchman who lived in the area. One night, Jack came home deeply disturbed. He told Una that he and Van Raalte had been out drinking with a woman. The woman was another Dutch person, or perhaps a local prostitute. They were all drunk. The woman passed out in the car. Jack said they couldn't wake her up. In their drunken panic, they decided they had to hide her. Van Raalte knew Hagley Wood. He knew about the old Wych Elm. So they drove out there, Jack said, and they put the woman in the tree. He thought she would just wake up and climb out in the morning, but she never did. Jack Mossop was haunted by what he did. He had recurring nightmares of a skull staring at him from a hollow tree. He was eventually committed to a mental hospital, where he died before the body in the Wych Elm was even found. Una's story seemed to fit. It explained how a local person would know about the tree. It provided a simple, if tragic, explanation of a drunken night gone horribly wrong. The problem was there was no way to prove it. Jack was dead. Van Raalte was a hard man to pin down. And Una's testimony was secondhand. Was she telling the truth? Was she trying to make sense of her husband's madness? Or was she just seeking attention? The police looked into it, but it led nowhere. It was a compelling story, but it was just a story. It remained another dead end. And that might have been where it all ended. A cold case with two plausible but unprovable theories. A local mystery destined to fade away. But then came the spy theory. This theory didn't bubble up from local gossip. It came from declassified government files and the work of determined researchers. It connected the skeleton in a quiet English wood to the secret high-stakes world of World War II espionage. The story starts not in Worcestershire, but in Cambridgeshire in January 1941. A German spy named Josef Jacobs parachuted into England. His mission was a disaster. He broke his ankle when he landed. He was quickly found by the Home Guard and arrested. He was carrying a radio, some cash, and fake papers. Jacobs was interrogated by MI5, Britain's counterintelligence agency. He was cooperative, he knew he was caught, he talked about his training, his mission, and his contacts. He was a small player, not a master spy, but he mentioned something that, years later, would seem incredibly important. He mentioned his lover. Her name was Clara Bauerle. Josef Jacobs told his interrogators that Clara was also a German spy. She'd been recruited after him. He said she was a singer and actress who had worked in Germany's top cabarets. She was beautiful and charismatic, and she was supposed to follow him to England. Her mission was to make contact with a German spy ring already operating in the Midlands, the industrial heart of Britain. The MI5 took this seriously. They searched for Clara Bauerle. They found records of her. She was real. She was born in Germany. She had indeed worked as a singer. She was known to the Gestapo, but not for being a loyal Nazi. She was considered politically unreliable. But she had connections. She was a performer. And she could speak English with a slight, hard-to-place accent. Jacobs had a photograph of her on him when he was captured. It showed a striking woman with dark hair. He said she was being prepared for her mission when he left. She was expected to land in England a few months after him. MI5 kept an eye out. But Clara Bauerle never showed up, or so they thought. After 1941, all official records of her in Germany just stopped. She vanishes. There's no record of her death, no record of her being arrested, no record of her anywhere. She simply disappears from history. For his part, Josef Jacobs was tried for espionage. He was found guilty and executed by firing squad at the Tower of London in August 1941. He was the last person ever executed at the Tower. His story was filed away in secret government archives. Years later, in the 1960s, an author named Donald McCormick, writing under the name Richard Deacon, was researching a book about espionage. He was given access to the newly declassified MI5 files on Josef Jacobs. He read about the failed mission, the execution, and the missing lover, Clara Bauerle. Well, McCormick was also familiar with the mystery of Bella in the Wych Elm. He was a curious man. He started connecting the dots. The timeline fit perfectly. Jacobs said Clara was supposed to arrive in the Midlands in the spring or summer of 1941. The pathologist said Bella died around October 1941. This gave Clara a few months to be in the country operating as a spy before something went wrong. The location was right, the Midlands. Hagley Wood is right there, a stone's throw from the industrial centers of Birmingham and Coventry. It was exactly where a spy sent to disrupt the war effort might be operating. The description matched too. Bella was about 35. Clara Bowrell would have been around that age. Bella was 5 feet tall. Clara was described as being of similar height. And the teeth. Bella had very distinctive, irregular teeth. A former acquaintance of Clara Bowrell, when interviewed decades later, remembered her having crooked teeth. The theory began to take shape. It was a chilling narrative. Clara Bowrell, using the code name Bella, or a similar alias, successfully parachutes into England in 1941. She makes contact with her network. Maybe the network consists of German agents. Or maybe it's made up of sympathizers, people living in Britain who secretly support the Nazis. She starts her work, but something goes wrong, terribly wrong. Perhaps her network was compromised. Throughout the war, MI5 was running a highly successful operation called the Double Cross system. They would capture German agents and turn them, forcing them to send false information back to Germany. The British were masters of this game. It's possible Clara's contacts weren't loyal German spies at all. They might have been double agents working for the British. When Clara arrived, she became a liability. They couldn't send her back. They couldn't let her be captured because she might expose their network. So they had to eliminate her, or maybe Clara decided to defect. She was known to be politically unreliable. Perhaps she saw the reality of the war and wanted out. She might have threatened to go to the authorities. To her contacts, this would have been a death sentence. They couldn't risk her talking. Either way, the result is the same. Her own people decide she has to die. They take her to a quiet, secluded place, a dark wood. They silence her, stuffing taffeta in her mouth to stop her from screaming. Then they need to hide the body. A grave could be found, but a hollow tree? It's a perfect hiding place. Dark, deep, and unlikely to be disturbed. They force her body inside and she disappears. This spy theory explains many of the strange details of the case. It explains why no one ever reported her missing. She was a spy, living under an alias. She had no family in Britain. Her handlers in Germany would simply assume her mission had failed, that she had been captured and was being held in secret. No one would come looking for her. It also explains the graffiti. Who put Bella in the Wych Elm? Who would write that? In the spy scenario, the message takes on a new, sinister meaning. It might not be a taunt to the police. It could be a message between spies. Perhaps one of the conspirators felt guilty. Or maybe it was a warning, a threat to another member of the spy ring. I know what you did. It's a message from within the shadows, a ghost from a secret war. The theory is compelling. It ties together a local murder with the grand drama of World War II. It paints a picture of a secret world of agents and double agents playing for the highest stakes right under the noses of the people of Worcestershire. But is it true? Like the other theories, it's impossible to prove for sure. Donald McCormick, the author who popularized it, had a reputation for sometimes embellishing the truth. He mixed fact with speculation. However, the core of his research was solid. The MI5 files are real, Joseph Jacobs was real, Clara Bowrell was real, and she really did disappear in 1941. The connection is too strong to ignore. For many, the spy theory is the most convincing explanation. It fits the facts better than witchcraft or a drunken accident. It explains the why of her disappearance in a way the other theories don't. A local woman would have been missed. A prostitute would likely have been known to the police. But a foreign spy? She was designed to be a ghost. And so the mystery remains. The case is officially unsolved. The key players are all long dead. The Wych Elm itself, weakened by age and disease, was cut down in the 1950s. The skeleton of Bella was held at Birmingham University for forensic study for many years. But then it, too, disappeared. The bones were lost or misplaced sometime in the 1970s. We can't even go back and run modern DNA tests on her. All we have is a story. The story of 4 boys out poaching on a spring day. The story of a skeleton found inside a tree. The story of the strange graffiti that gave a victim a name. Was she Bella, a local woman who fell in with the wrong crowd? Was she an unfortunate soul sacrifice in a dark ritual? Or was she Clara, a German spy who knew too much, silenced by her own side in a secret war? We will likely never know for sure. The truth is, as hidden as the body was for those first 18 months, it's locked away in the past. The people who knew what happened took their secrets to the grave. But the question remains. It still hangs in the air around Hagley Wood. It still appears from time to time scrawled on a wall as a piece of grim, defiant graffiti. It's a simple question, but one without an answer. Who put Bella in the Wych Elm?